When you look at the explosion of mental health apps today, it's easy to feel as if help is finally right at your fingertips. These tools promise mood tracking, guided breathing, quick CBT-style reframes, and a sense of structure when life feels messy. And to be fair, a lot of that is genuinely valuable. Many people who would never pick up a journal or schedule therapy on their own suddenly find themselves reflecting on their feelings because an app nudges them to do it. Daily reminders to check in with yourself can create a small but meaningful habit of emotional awareness. For someone juggling work, family, and stress, even a few minutes of structure reflection can feel like a lifeline. And some apps truly shine when it comes to making cognitive behavioral exercises less intimidating. Turning a tough psychological skill into a simple tap-through sequence lowers the barrier for people who are curious about mental health but nervous about therapy. But there is also a deeper, more uncomfortable truth we need to say out loud. These apps are not therapists, and many people treat them as if they are. That's where the risk begins. An app can remind you to breathe. It cannot recognize when your shortness of breath is being driven by trauma, burnout, or a panic disorder that needs real clinical evaluation. A mood tracker can show that your energy is trending downward, but it cannot ask the follow-up questions that reveal whether you're facing depression, grief, or a physical condition masquerading as a mental health issue. And when someone relies on an app as their main support, especially during a fragile moment, the false sense of security can be dangerous. Some apps advertise themselves as science-based, but their exercises are often watered-down fragments of CBT taken out of context, useful as small tools, but not enough to guide someone through complex, layered emotional problems. Another warning sign is that many people use these apps in isolation, quietly suffering behind a screen. Because the app is always available and never judgmental, it can feel safer than talking to a real human. The problem is that real healing often requires interpersonal connection, the kind of back and forth that reveals patterns a piece of software cannot detect. No app can truly challenge distorted thinking the way a trained clinician can. No algorithm can listen between the lines or understand how your cultural background, personal history, or current life pressure shapes the way your symptoms show up. These nuances matter, and when they're missed, people can delay getting help until their symptoms escalate. That delay is one of the biggest dangers of treating wellness apps as substitutes instead of supplements. Yet it's also important to highlight the positive side with clear-eyed realism. For many people, mental health apps are an on-ramp. They lower stigma by making emotional care feel less mysterious. They help people track meaningful patterns, sleep swings, stress triggers, reactions to screens or caffeine, that even therapists often ask clients to monitor between sessions. When used intentionally, these tools can make in-person therapy more efficient because the client arrives with weeks of self-observations already recorded. Some apps even help users build consistency by turning routines into streaks or gentle habits. And while an app can never perform a full clinical assessment, it can absolutely hold you accountable, help you ground yourself during anxious moments, and remind you to practice small coping skills when life becomes overwhelming. So the real takeaway is not that mental health apps are useless. They're not. They can be helpful, comforting, structured companions, especially on days when motivation is low and you just need a nudge to care for yourself. But they become harmful when treated as replacements for professional care or when people lean on them to avoid confronting deeper issues. The safest and most effective approach is to see these apps as tools, not solutions. They are the scaffolding, not the house. They can support you while you build the real foundation, but they cannot replace the human expertise required for conditions that involve risk, complexity, or long-term guidance. In the end, the promise of mental health apps is both hopeful and limited. They make wellness feel more accessible, they offer practical exercises that can genuinely help in daily life, and they empower people to start reflecting on their emotional state in small, achievable doses. But their limits are just as real, and ignoring those limits can give a false sense of security that leaves people unprepared when a real crisis arrives. Respect the tools, use them wisely, and know when it's time to reach beyond the screen for the support only a trained clinician can provide.